All right, we're about ready to get started here with this press conference. My name is James Ramos. I'm the board chairman of the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors. And here with me today is Supervisor Josie Gonzales from the 5th District. We have San Bernardino County Sheriff John McMahon, San Bernardino County District Attorney Mike Ramos. We also have with us representatives from the fire community that will be speaking a little bit later. Today, what we wanted to do is bring to the forefront the issue of hobby drones that have been forcing firefighters to suspend air operations during each of the wildfires that have affected San Bernardino County. Because those planes could not be used, those fires spread faster and further because of the drone and the aerial that was out there. In the most recent fire, the North Fire, we saw cars and trucks burning on the freeway. We saw homes burn. We saw families running for their lives to get out of harm's way. We have asked drone operators to keep their drones away from the fires. They have ignored us. They know their drones are putting lives at risk. Each time a fire breaks out, they fly anyway, hindering the air support of firefighters to combat the fires in San Bernardino County. We are not asking anymore for you to keep the drones out of harm's way of firefighters and first responders. Because now we are saying that we are putting together fines for everyone that's out there engaged in this illegal activity. We want to know who you are, and we want those punished that are actually hindering the firefighters and putting firefighter lives in jeopardy also. The Board of Supervisors has created a $75,000 reward fund for information leading to the arrest and conviction of anyone whose use of drones interfered with firefighting efforts during the Lake Fire, Mill 2 Fire, and North Fires. Someone knows who these drone operators are. We hope this reward will motivate you to call We Tip Hotline at 1-800-78-CRIME and help bring those drone operators to justice before someone loses their life. At this time, I would like to introduce Sheriff John McMahon.
Thank you, Supervisor Ramos. Good morning, and thank you for being here today. This is a very important and serious situation that we've faced. As you all know, we've had 3 fires and incidents where hobby drones were being flown in and around those fire zones. We take that seriously. We don't want to put our firefighters in harm's way. A collision between a drone and a firefighting aircraft could be devastating, as well as delaying the response to these critical needs. We as a Sheriff's Department are committed to investigating these crimes, and as Supervisor Ramos indicated, if anybody has any information on the 3 prior fires or any future fires, call We Tip at 1-800-78-CRIME. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to bring up San Bernardino County District Attorney Mike Ramos.
Thank you, Supervisor Ramos and Sheriff John McMahon. There's a lot of information, there's a lot of legislation that's going on as we speak today. But we have laws on the book now. And I want to talk a little bit about that. If those of you that want to consider to continue to interfere with firefighters in their line of work. PC 148.2, willfully interfering or delaying or preventing a fire from being extinguished, is a misdemeanor. 6 months to a year in county jail and a $1,000 fine. There's also a public resource code section 4165. If you interfere with a fireman or any company, any fire company, in interfering with the extinguishing of a fire, again, another misdemeanor. But it goes beyond that, and we will hold you responsible. We here have a history in San Bernardino County that it's a very big concern to us. You all remember the old fire. It spreads, and it spreads fast, and people's lives were lost. And we need to keep that from happening. So we can't delay in having our firefighters out there doing what they do in a very professional manner. Now, I want to follow up with this. And this is a fair notice and warning to individuals that would continue to conduct themselves and do these intentional acts regarding drones. There is a portion of the law called implied malice under murder. This isn't a threat. I just want you to know that if an intentional act of a drone was to cause one of these wonderful men and women fighting fires to go down and be injured, or worse scenario killed, or another civilian on the ground, we will prosecute you for murder. I need you to know that. So please, most of you are law-abiding citizens out there, and this is a new technology, but those rogue drone owners that continue to interrupt, you need to keep your drone at home or we will prosecute you. Thank you.
Thank you, District Attorney Mike Ramos. Now I'd like to bring up Jody Noren from the San Bernardino National Forest Supervisor.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here to discuss this very, very important issue. I want to point out that it actually was not 3 fires where we had to stop all of our aviation assets from flying the fire on initial attack. There were 4 fires. The first fire was the lake fire over at San Bernardino Pass. Then we had the Mill 2 fire outside of Yucaipa. We had the Sterling fire that was just outside of Del Rosa, impinging on a neighborhood. And then, of course, we had the North Fire, which actually was seen internationally, millions of people on national television. So this is an extremely important issue. As you've heard, the fact is that if there are unmanned aircraft in the air, our aircraft cannot fly. Our air tankers, that's the one that's behind us, our helicopters, the water-dropping helicopters, the retardant-dropping air tankers, they cannot fly if the unmanned aircraft are in the air. The other point that I want to make is that it's not just drones, it's all unmanned aircraft, remote-controlled aircraft. It could be a drone, it could be a helicopter, a remote-control helicopter. It could be a remote-control glider. It could be a remote-control plane. Any of those things, if they are in the air and they are spotted by our aircraft, by our pilots, we will disengage from the fire until the airspace is clear. So we are really begging the public to please help us. Help us keep our airspace safe so that our firefighters can continue to attack these fires on initial attack. If they can't drop the retardant, if they can't drop the water, what that means is it allows the fire to not only get bigger, but also grow in intensity as well, and further risk lives and property. So please help us keep this airspace safe. We know there are a lot of responsible users out there, and we really appreciate those of you who are responsible users, and as soon as you recognize that you're in or near a wildfire, that you disengage, we appreciate. But please help us spread the word to all remote control unmanned aircraft users that they need to stay out of the airspace of these wildfires. And as you heard, they will be prosecuted, especially if anybody gets hurt or killed. So with that said, the bottom line for us is that if you fly, we can't. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Next, I'd like to bring up Deputy Chief Jim Johnstone from the San Bernardino County Fire Department.
Thank you, Supervisor. The County Fire Department stands united with all the agencies behind me regarding the critical nature of the fire threat, that we're not able to not able to fly aerial aircraft from the agencies represented here based on UAVs or drones. You've heard that message loud and clear. We have a grave concern, all of us collectively here, regarding this, and you've heard that loud and clear today. So you understand the county fire mission is the protection of structures and the people, the businesses and the homes. And a classic example, as you've heard, is the North Fire, most recently, as well as the other incidents. And with that, not only were the aircraft that they have to be disengaged, but as a result, the fire, as Supervisor Nora just mentioned, got large enough where it threatened thousands of lives, both on the freeway and in the community of Oak Hills. And that's strictly and simply unacceptable. So our message is to the public, and it's a common theme: use We Tip, be a part of our team, use that to report any suspicious activity. We support the full extent of the law for prosecution of individuals that use the unmanned apparatus. And as a result, not only are we a team behind us, but we consider the public a part of our team to help us solve this issue so that we can keep fires small collectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Next, I'd like to bring up Unit Chief Darren Feldman from San Bernardino County, CAL FIRE.
Thank you, Supervisor Ramos. First, I'd like to thank the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors for taking a progressive and proactive role in this issue in regarding the public safety part of it for us, for the citizens we serve in the community here, and allowing us to be able to provide that service to our full capabilities. You know, with California in its fourth year of its drought, you know, it's important to know that droughts don't cause wildfires. They just simply make our conditions worse. Approximately 95% of all fires are caused by humans. CAL FIRE's mission is to keep all fires 10 acres or less 95% of the time. Statewide, we've had a number of drone incursions, particularly here in San Bernardino, in the recent fires. As they become more popular, we've seen these increased drone interfering with our air operations and hampering firefighter suppression efforts and causing issues, particularly to firefighter safety. When drones interfere with firefighting efforts, a wildfire has the potential to grow larger and become more destructive, and the cost, unfortunately, can be a lot more extreme. A collision with a drone could easily result in major damage to our aircraft, injuries to our pilot, the crew on board, as well as the firefighters below, or even worse, a mid-air collision. This issue is so important to public safety, and for us here today, united we stand with all our public safety cooperators behind me, our elected officials, and we have this united message. And the message I want to leave here today with you, again with Supervisor Norton, said, no drones over fire zones. If you fly, we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Unit Chief Darren Feldman from CAL FIRE. So you heard the speakers come forward, and it's really to bring awareness to this issue, but also to make sure that everybody understands here in San Bernardino County, we're watching, we remain vigilant, and when this type of action will not be tolerated in San Bernardino County of hindering first responders that put their lives in jeopardy, as well as the lives in jeopardy of the residents of San Bernardino County. Thank you for attending the press conference.
Question? Just to play devil's advocate here, we talked to some of the drone flyers or whatever, and they seem to think that it's not a big deal because they're only 2, 3, 4 pounds, and that there could be a 35-pound Canadian geese flying around. So I guess they don't think it's fair. Do you have a comment on that?
Yes, well, I guess the analogy I can use is think what a pigeon can do to a commercial aircraft. We hear it on the news all the time that commercial aircraft flying all over the world, that if they encounter any kind of anything into those engines, they have to retreat back and land. So it's the same concept. It doesn't matter if it's 1 pound or 10 pounds. It can still cause damage to that aircraft, and that is a risk that we cannot take.
Can these drones take one of these planes down? Can a drone cause a plane like that to crash?
Yes, it can.
Is there any photos or any video of any of these 4 incidents where the drones have been in these firefighting areas? And if so, can you
think one of the reasons of being here today is drawing the information for investigations that move forward. And speaking to the investigator in San Bernardino County, the sheriff could allude a little bit more to that.
We don't have any documented evidence in one of the fires here in San Bernardino, in the Sterling fire. We found somebody flying a drone. We handed that information off to the Forest Service. It was discovered that they were actually flying that drone, but it was not in the fire area. So the actual unmanned aircraft that was flying in the fire area, we were unable to identify the pilot of that.
I guess this is for you and for the district attorney. Does this need to become, since the current statutes are misdemeanors, does this need to become a felony? And if so, what action is being taken to make that happen?
Congressman Cook from our area is proposing legislation in Congress, as well as Senator Gaines in Sacramento is at Senate Bill 167. He's trying to get through the process as well to address this behavior. But the district attorney can talk some more about the specifics of the law.
As the sheriff indicated, there is work at the national level to increase this punishment to a felony. There is also work at our local level of state legislators. And I'm not sure, I haven't read the details of that legislation. But again, I will say this, that we have laws on the books now, and in the worst scenario, and that's why we're having this press conference really, to prevent anything from happening. In the worst scenario, a firefighter or somebody losing their life in one of these fires, that we have laws on the books under the theory of implied malice to prosecute folks to one of the most serious charges you can, and that is murder.
Prior to these four incidents, were there any recorded incidents with remote control aircraft competing with the fighting of the fire?
With the incidents, what the County Board of Supervisors moved forward with is setting aside $75,000 for reward, leading to the conviction and prosecution of individuals. We do know that drone activity, grounded aircraft responding to the 3 fires that we identified. So drone activity has hindered the response of first responders and have put in jeopardy not only the lives of firefighters, but also the lives of the residents of San Bernardino County.
Is there any thought been given to how to take them out of the sky if, for example, they don't leave? If it's run, I mean, if it's one of these cases where you're still waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to remove the drone and they're just not doing it, then what? I mean, what recourse is?
There's legislation that's ongoing now. There's deliberations going back and forth of how that could be created. But let me be clear, here in San Bernardino County, you see the family of San Bernardino County coming together with our partners and firefighters, and you have the sheriff and the district attorney standing here, letting you know and letting the public know that if anybody wants to continue in that type of illegal activity, they will be held accountable.
Right, but in real time, what do you do?
Real time, Sheriff.
There's some discussion at the state level about geofencing and some things like that as far as technology is concerned. But in the short term, before that occurs, if a drone is reported by the aircraft pilots, then they can get that information to us, and we will do our best to surround the area and try to locate the person that's flying it. We know they can go anywhere from a half a mile up to a mile from the actual aircraft itself. So it would be our responsibility to do our best to try to identify where the pilot is, and ultimately, if we had custody of the pilot, we could take care of the drone.
But doesn't that take away resources from you guys trying to fight this fire? Like if you're having to worry about, oh, let's bring someone on the plane who can whose job is to shoot down any possible drone, or even in tracking them, later or whatever,
Certainly.
that's taking away from you guys and probably costing taxpayers.
Certainly, our responsibility in a fire is to help with the evacuations and save the citizens and help them get out of their houses as well as their animals. So our primary focus is dealing with the evacuation portion of it. So certainly it would take our resources away from that, and we would have to focus on trying to identify the person flying the drone. So you're absolutely correct. It does take away from our resources. And we know that, especially in this North Fire, it moves so fast that our deputy sheriffs struggled trying to keep up with it and get the evacuations done and try to save the citizens of our county before the fire got there. So to take valuable resources away to identify the pilot of one of those drones is actually a shame, to be quite honest with you.
And just piggybacking on what Courtney was saying, has there been any talk about, I know it sounds a little ridiculous considering how small they are, but shooting down a drone, if it just isn't going anywhere, what do you do?
Well, it depends on its altitude, it depends on its location, but certainly that's a possibility.
Do you believe that this was 4 different operators, 4 different unmanned aerial vehicles? Any indication that it's been the same every time?
We have no information to suggest who was flying those at this particular point. We're hoping that with the public's help, and they call WeTip, we can identify who the pilots were of those specific drones. And then we'll be able to determine whether or not it's the same person. I suspect that it's different people, but we can't prove that yet.
Has this been an issue last year, the year before, or are these 4 cases the first ever?
The first we've heard of it, but maybe Jody has some more information.
Yes, it was the Forest Service aircraft that had to disengage on these 4 fires. The lake fire was the first recorded incident we have had of unmanned aircraft. And so it happened on all 4 of those fires. And the other point I just want to make is we use the term drones, and remember, it could be the quadcopter thing that you see and everybody thinks of as a drone. It could be a remote control helicopter. And I don't know if you guys have seen how big those things are and how heavy they are. It could be a glider with a 4, 5, 6 foot wingspan. It could be a remote control plane as well, that to be at that elevation with a 4, 5, 6 foot wingspan. So we're not talking a 1 pound little styrofoam something or other out there flying. There's some substance to these objects in the air, and they absolutely can bring down our aircraft. And the other point I want to make is that we have an air tanker sitting behind us, but and you look at this huge plane thinking, God, how can something like that hurt something this big? But you have to remember that we have other aircraft that we use in fire suppression. This cannot fly without a lead plane. There's a smaller lead plane that guides these air tankers, and they are very susceptible to hitting objects in the air at fast speeds. We also have helicopters. We have small helicopters. We have big helicopters. And to have any object that gets caught in the propellers and all that of either the top or the tail propellers, I don't have to tell you what kind of damage that can do, and absolutely it can bring down our aircraft. So when you think about this, it's the full 360 that we have several different types of aircraft that we fly, various sizes, and absolutely these unmanned aircraft can do damage and bring down and cause to crash any of our aircraft.
Does it matter how high the drone is in the sky, or is it just don't fly them? We don't want it 100 feet in the air. We don't want it 10,000 feet in the air. You know.
If our pilots detect unmanned aircraft in the airspace that they are flying in, whether they are 20 feet off the ground taking off, or whether they're 1,000 feet up in the air circling to come down on a fire. It doesn't matter the elevation. If an unmanned object is detected in the airspace that they are in, they will disengage. And right now the only recourse we have is we stay disengaged until the airspace is clear and safe.
Are any of the fire agencies using drones to your benefit? If you have like a fire that's burning the air in a remote area, are you using them for recon or anything like that? Are they a helpful tool at all?
I'm told that for the Forest Service that there has been some experiments in Northern California for like lightning detection and stuff like that, but that's as far as it's gone. But no, we do not use them as a regular course of business.
And just switching gears for just a moment, can you guys give us like a status update on how this fire season is so far for you guys from a firefighting perspective? We're basically in August now, year 4 of the drought. How are we doing compared to last year and the year before that?
Hi, I'm Liz Brown. I'm the Public Information Officer for San Bernardino Cal Fire, and we have seen at this point about 1,000 more fires this year than we would have seen in an average year. So yes, fire activity has absolutely increased. That's why this necessary tool, our aircraft, is so important. The drought, as my chief has spoken, we're in our 4th year. People start fires, not droughts. So when you have those extreme dry conditions, you have a start, the fires are moving faster, and we need every resource available. That's why it's so critical, and this issue is so important to us statewide. And last year at the Cocos Fire, we did have a drone incursion, and we did have some impeding of our firefighting operations. So yes, this is not the first incursion. It has happened in the past, but now, as drones have become more popular, we're seeing more incursions.
I'm sorry, you said we have 1,000 more fires.
At this point, up to date.
For the entire season.
Correct. Up to date, we have 1,000 more fires up to date right now than we have in average years.
entire state?
It was my understanding coming here that it was $75,000 correct that was authorized for the 3 fires, so 25 per. But now that we have 4 that we're talking about, does it stand at $75,000, or now are we talking about $100,000 reward on the table?
The Board of Supervisors approved $75,000 for the 3 fires: Lake Fire, the Mill 2 fire, and the North Fire. Those are the fires that the board has approved to offer the reward at $25,000 each incident. Again, we're here to bring the awareness forward. We're also here to be proactive in identifying something that's hindering the response of firefighters to fight the fires in San Bernardino County. We believe that by getting the message out and being proactive and making sure that we remain vigilant and that we're watching all these activities, that we're going to save the taxpayers' money down the road. Because if air support had to be grounded, that's so much more support that could have came in and put those fires out quicker, that's saved on those resources. Again, we're here to offer up the reward for those 3 fires, and the phone number again is 1-800-78-CRIME, and we encourage you to call that number if you have any information leading to the conviction and prosecution of those individuals responsible for interfering with firefighters. Again, thank you for coming out to our press conference. Thank you.